So I want to share something that I'm working on at the moment that I think is really interesting. So I've launched this event in Dublin and it's doing really well. It's got a lot of momentum, a lot of excitement. And one of the people that's working with me was like, look, that's fantastic. You know, you've nailed Dublin. Let's now launch in this market and this market. And the markets they mentioned were smaller markets. And for me, I think it's so important that when you have something that's going good, you expand into bigger markets. You don't expand into smaller markets. Smaller markets might seem easy, and so it's like a quick win. But what you don't appreciate is smaller markets will have local institutions in place, quite tightly knit communities, and they can actually be really, really complicated. But also, if you do that, it's not as challenging as the initial market that you launched into. And actually what happens is mentally it can be a little bit deflating or underwhelming. Whereas when you've succeeded, when you've built excitement, when you've built a bit of a cash flow, you've got a momentum going behind you. You've got a wave, and riding that wave into a bigger market is made all the easier by that. And so why not expand into wherever it is that you're going to get a higher return on investment, but also a bigger challenge. And we're stimulated from challenge. And the bigger the challenge, the higher the stimulation, but also the higher return. It's something I think it comes up a lot that, you know, as businesses progress, they go for quick wins in smaller markets and actually get really tangled up in that. When instead they could use that momentum to expand into bigger markets, and they'll do so much better. But also as well, one thing that people always overlook is that expanding into a bigger market is actually perceived by your market as exciting and big and wow. And it'll actually help market your business all the more. Whereas you don't get that effect when you expand into a smaller market. So yeah, just my experience, like previously when I ran all these club nights, we expanded into smaller markets. We got stuck into loads of complications with local promoters and local local promoters, local communities, local things that we didn't know. And it became so complicated. And then our returns, because they were smaller markets, were so much less than what we were getting in our bigger market that it just tangled us up in a big deflating mess. When in actual fact, Steve Jobs says you can always connect the dots looking back, and I can definitely connect the dots and say, if we had taken that energy and expanded into a bigger market, we would have done phenomenally better. And so, learn from my mistakes to hopefully benefit and boost your entrepreneurial journey.